Well, welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm Gonna Talk, You're Gonna Listen. Um, this is episode, I don't know, this is like my second attempt at this episode. Unfortunately, the last time I tried to do this episode, I was trying to walk and water the trees at the same time, water the saplings, and I think my mic got wet, but I think also the spray nozzle thing must put out some pitch or some tone that just glitched the entire 45 minutes out, which is a real bummer. But I guess that's kind of like the limit of what I can and can't walk around and do, which is weird. I swear one of the other times I walked around and watered everything and it was fine. But maybe not. Um, I've got a lot on my mind. Um, I think I've been practicing my drone a lot, and the drone's follow feature is really cool and really fun. If I wasn't worried about doxing the shit out of myself, I would use that for videos. But also the thing is like to do like a half an hour video at 1080p 60 fps is like 50 gigs. Like it's a massive file, and it would take me days to upload it. Um, that's kind of just the really unfortunate thing is it's taking over a year longer to get fiber here than they originally forecasted, and fiber was one of those big government fumbles. Just I don't know, just like so many other ones where it was one of those build back better infrastructure money injection things like the man there's so many I can't even think of all. There was the one with trying to reimburse people for rent and then just hundreds of millions of dollars disappear. And I think that's what happened with this um, fiber thing too. Is the money just like disappeared, and they had to get the money again. Same thing with like all the federal energy savings things, and just all these rebate programs and stuff. Like I don't know if it's the people running it. I think, from what I understand locally, with what happened with the funds to like back pay everybody's rent, is that like it was county by county, and some counties were kind of good at doing the rebates, and some counties were bad at doing the rebates. And I really don't know what happened with this fiber thing. I just know that like they get it halfway done and then they stop for a huge chunk of time, and then they get a little bit more of it done and then they stop for a huge chunk of time. And um, I could do so much more with the channel if I had fiber. Like I know I would have my watch hours by now, but I kind of have to do these videos with basically like no video or anything, and really no live streaming. So they're kind of just like stuck to podcasts. Those video game ones, like those game and rant ones, um, those take like a half a day to upload. Even if I really, really, really scale them down, and that's always been a bummer because I've had the hard drive space to do 1080p stuff for like a long time. But even 2 years ago, back at the back where we when we rented Comcast, because our roommates wouldn't spring for infinite data, could only do like 1.2 terabytes a month. And 1.2 terabytes seems like a lot to some people. I'll tell you now, when you're live streaming, or you're uploading like 1080p, a terabyte is nothing. A 45-minute video uncompressed too much is like 100 gigs, 200 gigs. So if I want the video to actually look good, like that the cyberpunk one, the girl that like twiddles her foot to the music, uh, that's that was like a half a terabyte video. It took me like, I think, over 24 hours to upload that video, and then it just didn't get any watch hours. It was the same thing with like the the Metroid video. I think I did a Metroid video, or was it Mega Man X? Um, and unfortunately, like those in a lot of cases were much lower res than I'd wish they'd been. So it was like 2025, and you're still uploading like low res shit because the internet's terrible. A lot of the big streamers have either Comcast business class, or they have, which honestly is not that fast, or they have some kind of fiber, like Verizon's fiber, something, because you can't. There's like a couple things that you really like need to have. You can kind of fudge it, with your phone and like a shitty mic, but like it's all good and fine until you try to actually upload the video. Um, it's legitimately wild. And 5G, do this, do that. I mean, I guess like if I had um, Starlink, but dude, Starlink is expensive as hell. It is expensive as hell, and the prices are only going up. Um, it would legitimately be cool to do Starlink, but it's not. It's like decent. Like, I would say it's probably better than 5G, like mobile 5G, but it still doesn't have like the latency. I don't know. I like grounded fiber, or even grounded like Comcast. Although Comcast was really bad too. Like, we've really got an infrastructure problem in the U.S. in general. Um, so I don't know. I kind of want to just like sit here and like stream like silence, like just me contemplating things, but my brain is just all over the place. There is just, I don't know. I I think I think we're in big trouble though. Like, if you think about it, oh, I don't know if that wind is going to be really bad. I know CDK was telling me to get a fuzzy for my lapel mic. So even that gentle breeze could probably sound like acid, in which case I apologize. There's a really nice cool breeze today. The weather is genuinely amazing. It kind of feels like a microwave on my head a little bit, and I can feel like the sun, but like the breeze is amazing. Gosh, if it could be like this every day, I could get out of my funk and get a bunch of stuff done. Also, my ankles are pretty busted up again. Anyway, there's a lot on my mind. Like this thing, like in the UK with the gal Lola. I mean, I feel like it's almost finally coming to a head, realizing everyone's like finally, I think, the Overton window or whatever it's called, people are finally starting to realize that we have been completely out reproduced by like a factor of like 10 to 1, and that our children, especially our daughters, are just being like sacrificed to these gangs. And it's just like, which is, to be clear, has been going on for like at least 10 years, and just people haven't been allowed to talk about it, and it's disgusting. And I think maybe people are finally starting to wake up and realize it. But like, we're being outproduced by like damn near every other ethnicity. And it's, someone said something interesting. They were talking about how we got scammed like back in school by telling us to wait. But I don't think that was completely an ethnic thing. I think it was a class based thing too. And you might go, idiocracy, or idiocracy, or however you say that movie's name. That was talking about it too, and it was talking about it from like a class based system, but it's class based and it's ethnic based. Even when I was a kid, I remember going to, there was a Hispanic family down the street. I think I've talked about this before. No shit, they had like 10 or 11 kids. Um, that was a real, every other family had two. I guess I'll just say it. All the other white families had two, and they had 10. They had effectively outproduced the entire subdivision. Um, and like likewise, it wasn't. It's not all ethnic. Like there's religious components too. There was I guess I don't know what ethnicity you would have really called them, but she had 9 or 10 sisters and one brother, and her dad was one of those dads that like had a different wife in every city. And I think he must have had like 40 to 60 kids that I was remotely aware of. And it must have, I would say 60 to 80. This guy must have had 60 to 80 kids. But um, they were all, I don't know what ethnicity you would have called them, but I think that was more of a religious thing. And so I think it's interesting, like who's gonna inherit the earth here pretty soon. Oh, there's the AC, as if on cue. That's a bummer. And again, like I was talking about this in my game and rant, but my volume was a little too low. I guess I'll just talk about this in the main one. I think they want they want us to be so scared to not talk about race. But they've been telling us to not talk about race for a long time. We can't talk about being replaced, even though we literally are. Like that was the whole concept of DEI, to the point to where they were even trying to replace veterans. It was a huge problem in, I believe it was our state, where they tried to make a law saying that DEI actually superseded veteran preference. I think it was. It was. I remember it was a huge problem with Starbucks, but I think it was a problem with everywhere that had veteran preference. They were trying to make DEI actually supersede veteran preference. which is mind-blowing to me. There was a massive backlash and it got shut down. But why this is all important is obviously because they're trying to start a race war. They have been trying to start a race war for a long time. But also the the poorer areas, and this is what I was alluding to on my gaming rant. It's going to be the poorer areas that are affected by this first. They're going to, when the shit hits the fan, they're going to default to what they know, which is falling back on their own ethnicities. Whereas I think the richer neighborhoods are going to cling to each other because they only ever trust other rich people. And I think the people in the middle are going to hopefully default, on their neighbors and their Christianity and see past it all, and hopefully the people stuck in the middle can ride through it based on their values. Um, and I think the poor neighborhoods are just going to be in. It's going to be terrible. I can't even imagine what the poor neighborhoods are going to be like. Um, and I think the rural neighborhoods are going to be in real trouble because they're just going to be overwhelmed. The farms don't have 10 solid kids on every farm anymore. Some of them only have like one. Like you've got these huge farms and they might have like one kid. And I think part of it was them telling everybody, don't have kids unless you can afford it, don't have kids unless you can afford it. Meanwhile, you're subsidizing all the other ethnicities and the poor communities just in general to have as many kids as they want. Even if they don't have any fathers, just keep having kids, and the government subsidized it with our tax. There's another point to this. Um, I think. Well, I think we're in trouble. I think we've been in trouble for a long time. But also, what's going to happen? Oh, stupid. What's going to happen when the money? What's going to happen when the money shuts off and you've got these single moms with 10 kids from 10 different dads, and there's no unemployment anymore. There's no food cards anymore. I mean, it's just going to be absolute chaos. It's going to be absolute chaos, and these farms are going to be so easily taken over. You can't, even if you have 10 squared away guys, you can't cover 100 acres, 200 acres, 500 acres. Um, you can have a lot of drones and stuff, but like you still got to be able to get to all of it. And if there's not a lot of fuel, you're not getting around very fast. Um, it's hard to even cover 40 40 acres. I don't know. It's gonna be weird. I think I think that, man, I don't know. Getting an education, when you're like in getting your job and getting your education paid off and stuff, it created all these artificial debts, and then you don't have any status. Like they never taught us how to like gain status. Just like try to accumulate as much wealth as you can until you can financially sustain a child, like, I know the gals don't want to be with pores, and I think that is also going to be a problem. But they're going to be competing with ethnicities that the state is subsidizing them just generating as many children for the welfare state. And once those food cards go down, I mean, they're going to be looking at the rural areas to try to grow food again. I mean, I guess there's a reason why people bring up, Rhodesia and Zimbabwe and Cape Town, all these areas that have just like flip and flop back and forth. Like, I don't know how many people like to do like 2 acres. It's like, even if you gave everybody 2 acres, you need like 2 or 3 people working on it almost full time, which means someone has to be working too. I forgot if I already said this in a prior podcast, but for me to be able to turn this into agriculture, I'd have to make like $1,500, and then there's like a non-refundable right off the top of like $500 just to even try to convert it into ag, and it would take like 2 years. These are the kinds of situations they've set up. So how are you supposed to? You can grow your own food, but you need a bunch of people. You can't sell your food. There was already, I think I've already talked about this, but there was a gal and she tried to have a greenhouse, and they said her greenhouse was too big, and she didn't have the right forms filled out. And she said she was selling it to her neighbors, and they're like, "Well, you don't have a permit. You don't have a permit to sell food." And so, what they do in these, rural areas is there is a complete black black market, um, of just people like illegally selling fruit and vegetables and baked goods, like off of the, what's the word? Ah, baka, 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 baka. I was trying to figure out. He's got the most rattly. Oh, there's just like straight up driving a quad up the road. It's weird. It's funny. I saw somebody. They were like, side by sides are the new something or the other. It's like people just ride quads and side by sides all around here, which is fine. It's fine, except it's like, do you actually live here, or did you just decide to just joyride up and down every road with your quad? It's not a problem until they raid your property, and then you've got huge freaking problems. I'm glad I don't have that problem here yet, but I feel like we've almost had that problem a few times. And I talked to another guy. I think he lived in Oregon somewhere, but he had people just like dirt biking through his yard all the time. I really dread the day that happens. But again, that's why you need like 3 or 4 people. We're headed to really scary times, and I guess where I'm trying to go with this is working hard, working your ass off, working your body to death is not the answer anymore. I think instead of working your body to death, it might be time to just stop and reflect. If you have a really, really physical job and your body is about to give out, I don't know how you're supposed to pay your bills and stuff, but it might just be time to like stop and reflect and if you're younger, and if you're worried about not being able to afford kids, and you find the right gal, it might just be like trying to stop and figure things out a different way. And I really think a huge part of that is going to be finding someone's property to kind of coexist on and trying to figure out some mutually beneficial relationship. We would have made it 10 years ago if we could have found a roommate. In hell or high water, I could not find a roommate, even though it would have been a steal 10 years ago. It would have been a steal 5 years ago. The people that you need to connect with still, in a lot of cases, don't have the right mindsets. But I think they will soon. Because what could easily happen here is, let's say, someone needs to sit on a property. Freaking air conditioner, man. I can't wait till it cools down just a tiny bit more so the air conditioners will stop it. It's so distracting. It keeps breaking my thought process. Like, let's say there's a guy and a gal, and they have a couple kids, and they want to squat here, but they'll help work on things. I still have to figure out some way of, getting them water, and they have to, their trailer or whatever it is has to be able to go and dump its own gray water. But like, I think that's going to be like the future that we're in. Of course, you have to make sure they don't harbor any resentment and decide to just kick you out of your own house. And all that's going to be tough. But I think when we got this 2 acres, I was hoping it was going to be my family. But man, they just don't get it. They just don't. They don't get it, and they don't want to get it. They want to just ride this till the wheels fall off. They don't see that there's value in getting off just a little bit early. Well, I don't have any money. It's like, well, you would have money if you sold your stinking house. Like, just stop it. Just stop it. And I think you already have plots here where there's 2 or 3 families clearly living like in illegal dwellings on these properties. Like, and if people don't get with the program, they're just going to get overran. Even if you're well armed and trained. Stupid yellow jacket on my elbow. Even if you're well trained, 2 people just doesn't deter a determined group. If there's 6 or 7 of them, they'll throw away a couple to get at you, and they'll wear you down. You have to have available numbers. You have to have visible deterrence, But I could also see them, trying to like get some people to squat on your property and then slowly trying to. They're banking on people not having the backbone to just do what it takes. Does that make sense? And this is like the whole prime thing where like you've got to make your connections before the shit hits the fan, because after the shit hits the fan, you can't actually trust anybody you meet after a certain point. And there sure as hell's no way to vet them. They're gonna come slit your throat in the middle of the night. And I still think like through Christianity is the only way to be able to really trust people. It's the only foundation that you can. And there's gonna be fake Christians. There's already fake Christians, but like if the pastor I know reached out to me and said there's this really good family and they need somebody's place to crash on and they have an RV and they can help, that would be huge. Because what are you going to do when there's no unemployment, no social security, no food cards? And if some people show up and they're like, we're going to turn every inch of this place into a garden, first of all, I'd go, I don't think that's possible, but okay. You see what I mean? Like, it's the nice thing about 2 acres is it scales. Water's going to be a problem, but like with enough time, you can overcome water. You know, we could dig a second well and see if we hit a second vein. It's a lot of resources, but like those resources scale, if that makes sense. Um, I will say though that like roommates suck. Roommates really suck. And I told my wife ages ago we would never have to do the roommate thing, but I never thought, you know, the 2014 to 2017 crash was going to be so bad. So I think this hopefully ish segues into the next topic, which is crypto's been crashing for a week or two, not just because of the whale that pulled his Bitcoin out into ETH, and then everyone promptly sold their ETH and crashed it. Um, but everyone thinks that the Fed is going to use the pullout method and not lower interest rates. Now, the banks definitely think they're going to be lowering a quarter point. We started getting the phone calls saying that the bank was ready to preempt a quarter point drop to refinance. And apparently there's still like an 80% chance on the gambling websites. But the Fed's indicating that they might not, because of quote unquote how good GDP is and quote unquote how good unemployment is. And I was talking to the AI for a long time last night, and there's a couple problems with that. I'm gonna see if it'll work, if it'll keep recording. I think it'll keep recording. It says recording in process. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna go to the AI. The AI lies. Yeah, it still says recording in process. I'm gonna go to what the AI said to me last night. I talked to it about the Fed a lot. I'm trying to figure out. I'm almost there. And there's a lot of people driving back and forth out. I should have sat in the front yard. Okay. I asked it. I said, is the best possible case still only a quarter point cut? And this is Copilot. It says, yes, as things stand, the best case scenario for September is a single 25 basis point cut. That's the move the markets are overwhelmingly expecting, and it's the only one the Fed's most likely to deliver. And it says core inflation's hovering around 3.1% above the Fed's 2% target. And it says GDP growth is solid. And it says a larger cut could signal panic, and the Fed wants to avoid that narrative unless things truly unravel. So keep that in mind where it says core inflation's 3.1, which is above the 2% target, and keep the GDP thing in mind. So I said, how on earth do they think the GDP growth is solid? That seems insane. It says it feels disconnected, doesn't it? Especially when you're seeing layoffs, empty storefronts, and rising unemployment. But here's why the Fed and the economists are still calling the GDP growth solid. Quarter two GDP grew 3.3%, stronger than the expected, revised up from 3%. Consumer spending rose 1.6%. Imports dropped nearly 30%. Now keep that in mind. So it attributes this to the tariffs. So it says spending's up, but spending is up because people have to pay more for everything, and they're just getting second, third, fourth gigs. but also it's saying that GDP is up, meaning that we're spending more domestically. But of course, we're spending more domestically because of the tariffs, and the companies front loaded by buying a ton of products to make it look like they're selling them locally when they're actually imported. So it says GDP growth looks solid because of how it's calculated, not because everything's actually fine. The Fed sees the 3.3% number and thinks the economy is resilient. So I said, obviously tariffs skew the number. If we'd been doing imports and companies hadn't stockpiled, how bad would Q2 be? It says Q2 GDP is heavily distorted by the tariff-driven collapse in imports. Imports dropped nearly 30% in Q2, and that import subtracts the GDP. It added like a 5 full percentage points on the GDP, and so if the GDP was 3.3%, our real growth is like negative 1.7%, which puts us in recession land. In Q1, companies front-loaded imports to beat the tariffs. In Q2, the same companies stopped importing because demand collapsed. Or I mean, not because it collapsed, because they had stockpiled inventory. It means they didn't need to import at all. So it completely cooked the numbers. Private investment fell. There was no government spending, obviously, because the government's budgets are basically frozen. Consumer spending rose 1.6%, but that could be attributed to price hikes. And so the GDP, if GDP was only 1.9%, that means it's basically flat. Oh, the plane. So I said, what value does the Fed have to lie about this? And, they bought a $2.5 billion upgrade. And basically, they want to just keep market confidence going to avoid the political pressure and protect their narrative. They want to control the markets and they want to control policy, but it's going to come to a crash because they're going to have to readjust the unemployment numbers, and every time they readjust the unemployment numbers, it screws up, and they just keep revising the data over and over and over again. And so if this is kind of going to be one of the ironies, is if the market crashes because they don't lower interest rates, then that's going to screw up the market even more. So I said, what's by quarter four will be obvious, and it says by quarter four it's going to be hard for even most tuned out people to ignore what's happening. And it said that there's always holiday layoffs. So the layoffs have already been crazy, but there's going to be additional holiday layoffs, and I hadn't thought of that. So in September and October, they're going to start benchmarking all the revisions, which is going to make this year just look like a dumpster fire. And there's going to probably be tens of thousands more layoffs. Credit card delinquencies get even worse. And then the September meeting is also going to have the new future projections, and if those future projections look bad, it's just going to be a massive stock market crash. Is there no way for me to get? Hold on. There we go. So, interestingly enough, on top of this potential stock market crash, there's also like potentially another government shutdown looming. And the thing is, like, federal still can't hire, unless you're immigration, or I think like the VA. So they can't spend money. There's no money moving around in the government. I mean, and a lot of rebates are set to end by the end of the year too. I think solar and EV credits are ending at the end of the year, and that's a lot of extra money that flew through. Which I agree, we don't have the money to spend on all that. But suffice it to say, like, our economy is going to completely stagnate. So you have our economy stagnating, stocks are way overblown, and crypto is not in a death spiral, but it's correcting finally. And then you have people that are just cranking out kids like there's no tomorrow, while the rest of us are holding back because it's not sustainable. And what you're going to have is just this massive overpopulation of people with no jobs and no money and no skills and nothing to do. You also have the fact that just being completely overran by illegals in general. Um, Most of their work is going to be automated very soon. All the H-1Bs that are doing coding, Claude can do most of their code now. So you don't even need those H-1Bs anymore. QA, AI can audit all the software QA. And then all the illegals doing everybody's lawns, all that shit could be handled by robots now. So they won't deport these like 30-40 million illegals and expired visa holders. They won't kick them all out. But what's going to happen in a couple years when there's no jobs for them anymore? There's no jobs for us. There's no jobs for them. They're having kids at a rate of like 10-1. Like how is that supposed to work? How, like, people have been talking about this for like 20 years, and now here we are. And you might go, oh, just move, or it doesn't matter, I'm about to retire, or you've got Vivek Ramaswamy running your state. Like, how do you think? And again, this there's there are identity has a lot of different components. There's ethnicity, and there's religious components. And this idiot said, well, Dearborn, Michigan's the safest place in the United States. I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. Safe, first of all, safe for who? Like, you're crazy. This is why I couldn't agree with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Their whole strategy is to just move. It's like, just move where? Sooner or later, you're going to get rounded up and exterminated. And again, like, there's still a peaceful way through this. I'm certainly not advocating for anybody to do anything crazy. I think it needs to be called out, though. I think people need to recognize the trajectory that we're on here and find your people. And I don't mean, necessarily finding other people that look like you, because you're in the rural areas. You know how many white crackheads there are, how many white meth heads there are. Like, it's being poor doesn't discriminate. you know um, Having to try to figure out some way to feed your multitude of kids doesn't discriminate. um, I think these are the conversations that people should be having. I think it's the only way that we can figure out how to really come together, is to realize that, like, they're constantly trying to divide us. Like, this division, they began front loading this division a long time ago, trying to set us against each other a long time ago. They created just these massive ghettos. It's going to be ghettos full of starving people, starving poor people once their food cards get shut off. Food cards have been shut off before, even for a day or two. It's absolute anarchy. Grid down, even for a couple days, would be enough to just throw this country upside down. And you've got to have these conversations with your neighbors now. Or if you're stuck in the city, you've got to figure out how to get out now. People aren't going to care. People aren't going to care how you voted. They're only going to care if you have stuff or not. Meanwhile, all these rich dipshits flying around in their planes. Crap, I'm going to sneeze again. I don't want to sneeze. You think these people in their planes? Blah, 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 blah. You think these people flying around in their planes aren't taking pictures of everybody's gardens? They're not taking pictures of everybody's farm equipment and everybody's barns and everybody's cows? You think they're not mapping all this out? They don't care what ethnicity you are. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is like, the riches do not care what ethnicity you are. They only know they want all of you gone. And the poors, all the poors want to do is take the riches out. They don't care what ethnicity they are either. And then we're kind of stuck in the middle, being told to hate each other, being told we're intolerant, being told we're all racist, bigoted, homophobic, transphobe, blah, blah, blahs, and just not allowed to talk about it, while they just spray paint and write just the most horrible things everywhere. Being told that having borders is racist and having laws, having all these laws are bad. And then they try to take our Second Amendment away, and they try to stop us from talking about it. I don't like talking about it either. Like, I feel like bad things are going to happen just from talking about it. If you're insulated from it, great. But the reality is, like, if you think you're not on some kind of purge list, you probably are. I mean, people have watched you take groceries into your house. The people at the store have seen what you're buying. If you buy a Prepper magazine, if you buy a Food Saver, if you buy Food Saver bags, people remember that shit. And by not talking about it, by ignoring the fact that there's just going to be like massive ethnic specific communities, it's going to be so easy for them to, what I call, other, or dehumanize. Oh, these wasps are really on me. They're going to go to the neighborhoods that don't look like them, and that's where they're going to start. That's where they're going to start, because they're uneducated, low IQ, feral psychopaths. And how they froth each other up is by othering some other culture, some other community, blaming some other community for it. This is always what happens in society. You get some psychopath that froths everybody up and blames some other culture. And I'm sure by now every single culture has done it. They dehumanize, they subhumanize some other culture and go after them. They maybe even call them low IQ ferals. I don't know. But, man, just seeing the shit that I've seen in Europe Like, that's coming here. It's already here. They're emptying out Palestine. They emptied out Syria. Where do you think those people went? A lot of them went to Europe. Some of them went here. They're actual like barbarians. They're actual like barrels. Like, I get so frustrated. I say this over and over and over again. I get so sick and tired of people saying that they don't watch the news. Well, I don't watch the news just for that reason. Man, you've got no idea what's coming. If you don't go look and see what happens in LA, it's a different group of ferals. Well, like, man, if you don't see them, then this whole, like, door kicking. If you haven't seen like the door kicking videos that they do, if you haven't seen like the knockout game videos that they do, they call them games, they call them sideshows, they call them pranks, they call them, everything other than what they are. You don't know what's coming, and you don't know like the mindless ferocity. We've already been dehumanized by them. If you don't know what they do to our women, and if you don't know what they do to our girls, and what they do to our boys, if you don't know, and this shit's been going on for 10, 15 plus years, what they do is unspeakable horror. They look at you a certain way and their faces change, and they just do unspeakable things, and they don't stop because nothing stops them. The stories, the stories are unspeakable. That's what's coming. If you can't figure out how to network with everybody and how to think of this through in like a logical, pragmatic way, like, shit hits the fan is going to be unspeakable horror, and we're at the edge of it, coming into it. Like, what the commies want to do to us. Make no mistake, law and order. The commies have been openly attacking and brutally beating conservatives, especially conservative women, beating them unconscious. Videos from multiple angles, and nothing's happening. And this is what they want for all of us. And that's not ethnic, that's ideology. It's going to be the same damn problem. And people say, oh, just, take the first one out with pew pews and the rest will just stop. That is such a false, like, I see sometimes 10 people say that a day. That is a load of lies. They will happily sacrifice each other, just like they sacrifice their own children. They sacrifice their own children, they want to sacrifice all of our children too. And we won't sacrifice our children, and it makes us the enemy. They want to do the most horrible things on the planet to us, and they want us to not talk about it. We're one, at any given time, we are just one bad day away from everybody going full feral. And like I said, it's already happening. It's happening in bigger and bigger pockets. You watch the zombie movies, this is always how it happens, the normalcy bias. You always see the beginning of the zombie movie. It doesn't matter what zombie movie it is. The first one is always, them trying to arrest the zombie. And then just within a day or so, just everything's fallen. Like, people gotta wake up. People gotta wake up. And I'm not saying do bad stuff. Like, that's the problem. Like, I'm not saying to do bad stuff. I'm saying that, like, your strategy needs to change. They're trying. Why do you think they are trying to take cell phones away from children? They want your kids to come to public school, and they are taking. This is the first full year they're trying it. They are taking your child's cell phone away, and they are breaking their arms, patting themselves on the back for how good of a job they're doing from taking kids' cell phones away. They want your kids to be unarmed, defenseless, indoctrinated, and they don't want to have to tell you what goes on there. Just like with Common Core, they didn't want anyone to read those books. And it wasn't until the Rona where the parents saw what we're actually teaching the kids, and they saw what was in the kids' libraries, and then they tried to use the three-letter agencies to arrest the parents at those conference meetings. And now they're taking your kids' phones away. What do you think is going to happen next? What do you think is going to happen next? We're there. We are right at the precipice of all of this crashing. And these next 3-4 months, it is going to start being extremely, extremely, extremely obvious, because the markets are going to crash no matter what. If the Fed lowers interest rates too much, it's going to crash. If the Feds don't lower interest rates at all, it's going to crash. And once the real GDP numbers and the real unemployment numbers come out, it's going to crash. And once they show what the roadmap is, it's going to crash. Like, I think at this point, I don't know if they're going to be able to get to a digital currency fast enough to be able to save it. Not that that's a great option either. But I mean, they want us to be like cattle. You know, cows, I love cows, and I think they're just the most adorable things on the planet. They didn't always used to be this docile. Now they follow each other around like good little zombies. And they're just the most adorable, precious things on the planet. But man, they're just dumb as a box of rocks. They will literally walk right into the trucks to go to the cow farm, even though they could easily. They could easily do whatever they wanted, but they're just good little moochers. I call them little battle moochers. They put on a brave face. They try to be brave little cows, but deep down they know. They form their little cow circles and make sure the coyotes don't get them, but then they just walk right into the cattle cart when it's time. Not the horse, though. The horse is like, fuck you, I'm not going in that thing. You're out of your damn mind. You have to chase the horse around for freaking hours, and it wears you out, and then it does a little dance and rolls around in the dirt to taunt you. The cows are like, they can't get in. They can't do what you tell them to fast enough. Anyway, I wish people would wake up. And again, for the billionth time, I'm not saying to do no stuff. I'm saying, like, they have been trying to get us to not talk about this for so long. I mean, go look up the Justice for Lola thing. They knocked her sister unconscious. If she hadn't had her knife and her little tomahawk thing with her, which I know is crazy, but if she hadn't had it, who knows? It would have been 3 more girls missing, and it wouldn't have mattered because they were low income Scottish gals, I think. They would have fed them to the ferals to keep everybody shut up for one more day. Without even thinking about it, nobody would have even missed these girls. This is what they want. Like, you have to be galvanized. And I think what bugs me about it the most is could we vote our way through this? I still think we could if we actually had strong candidates. And that is what Washington is trying to do. They're trying to find strong candidates and make sure that the election process is actually secure. And then you can get strong candidates, get your two-way back, and start to clean up. And say, no, we don't want you dropping off jet loads of Palestinians in our state, or Syrians, or whoever it is. They've been secretly, why do they have to drop them off in the middle of the night without telling anybody? Because your mayors, your politicians have sold you out. They get an extra kickback, and you get more people that your infrastructure can't support. I don't know. I guess if this is what gets me canceled, and if this is what makes everybody just finally turn off and my hours zero out, then I guess whatever. They just of all the things people say that they don't want us talking about, this is the real thing that they don't want us talking about. And me putting it on my game and rant doesn't do me any good, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it. I know, feds being in your group is a problem, and fed jacking is a problem. I think if everyone just openly had these conversations and wasn't worried about getting canceled, wasn't worried about getting called racist, there would be a lot less fed jacking to worry about. Because then you could have the conversations and you could listen for people saying all the stupid things. Like, just go do the no stuff to one of them, and then you can be like, okay, Fed, get out of here. Or why doesn't someone do something about the 3 letters? Then it's like, okay, Fed, get out of here. But like, they're trying to enable and um, entrap people into all that. But like, people have to stop being scared to talk about this stuff. Like, it's there. It's obvious. You're gonna get called racist and transphobe and homophobe. You're gonna get called all these things. But you know that you're not. Like, being a Christian means something higher than all of that. It means you're all trying to survive together despite all of that. Christianity wasn't inclusivity to the point of extinction. And I don't know, I don't have all the Bible verses to pull out right now, but Jesus died for all of our sins. He didn't die so half of us could get exterminated by the other half while using our own beliefs against us. And that's all I've ever seen this whole time. It didn't matter if it was the border stuff. What would Jesus do? It didn't matter if it was like the food thing. What would Jesus do? It didn't matter if it was the homeless thing. What would Jesus do? It's like, well, I know he wouldn't just let us all get exterminated. Like, you have to be able to see through the lies. You have to be able to see through the division and realize that you're being played. Realize that they're bad faith arguments to use against you to make you feel bad. There's tons of compatible different groups that have immigrated here over the years legally that blend in just fine. And if anything, I think, I don't know anyone who would disagree with this. Conservative and Christian groups are infinitely more diverse than leftist commie groups. 100 times out of 100. When I would be at protests, I would go look at the other side. They would almost exclusively be pissed off rich white kids. And then our side would have Native Americans and African American, like, you name it. You name it. Tons of different, I think I've told this story before, like, tons of different religions over on our side. That's when I got my rosary. And the street preachers would be on our side, like, you name it. Like, our side had it all. And their side, man, flying all the flags of all the different countries that, except they're here, that shit makes no sense. This is America. Our side had one flag, the American flag. Like, we're all here for the same reason. We just have to be able to talk about it before we just are just completely overran. I feel like there's more, but I can't think about it right now. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of the rest. I'll think of more later. If this is the episode that is just the end of my show, then it's just the end of my show, and I guess I'll find other stuff to do. But my art book will be coming out any day now. If the quality of this print is good, I'll be getting it any day. If the quality is good, I won't worry about doing pre-orders. And buy my newbie prepper book, Bunker Basics, and if you already did, leave it a review. If it gets review bombed, I guess it is what it is. I don't have anything against any other ethnicity. That's not it. If you think that that's what it is, then you miss the point of all this. A lot of the Cubans that have come over have been amazing. A lot of Hispanic people that have come over have been amazing. That's not what I'm talking about. If you think that's what I'm talking about, then you didn't get the point. There's people that get America. There's people that understand America. That is not who I'm talking about. So I will talk to y'all later, and bye-bye. Stupid stuff. I say stupid stuff sometimes. Hey. Talking to people is hard. I'm asking who I am. Makes me cry. When the combo's going well, I feel like I can fly. But when it inevitably crashes, I really want to die. Social anxiety, people are so dumb. I try to talk to them, then I want to run. The stupid things that come out of their mouth, they don't care about me at all. Of that I have no doubt. Talking to people is hard. I'm not who I really am. Makes me cry. When the combo's going well, I feel like I can fly. But when it inevitably crashes, I really want to. Another person wants to come and talk to me. I'm trying to work, it's obvious, but they're too blind to see. I try to say something nice, but next words I say are dumb. I'm doing so damn awesome, and this works super fun. Talking to people is hard. I'm asked who I really am. Makes me wanna cry. When the convo's going
shut up, my crewmate's going to blow. Talking to people is hard, but I ask who I am, makes me cry. When the combo's going well, I feel like I can fly. But when it inevitably crashes, I really want to. Everyone else gets to say whatever they want. If it's not stupid sports, politics, and idiots avant, the dumbest smart guy that everyone knows. I don't have the energy to socialize, and it surely shows. I don't drink or smoke, I just sit there and chill. Stay away. Everyone else gets along, I wonder how many pills it finally takes for them to sleep at night and not hate each other. Talking to people is hard.